Welcome to Washington Football Week with your host, one half of that dynamic duo, Sean Spencer, and South Carolina's finest, Will Kramer.
Don't play us if you're undefeated.
Where we celebrate past success while looking to a bright future. There's a youth movement in Washington, and they're ready to take the reins, led by a fire. It's a new day, a new dawn, no longer the laughing stock. It's time to take command.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And it's Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. You already know, Thirsty Thursday. And I'm here with my guy. In frigid South Carolina, Will Kramer. What up, Will?
What's going on, man? I'm glad you said Thursday. I was thinking it was Wednesday. Having Monday off is just kind of throwing everything off this week.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, and for those of you that don't know, Monday, just to real quick go back, Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So definitely want to show my love and respect, because at the end of the day, the dream that he had is embodied in this show. Son of white, son of black, we're here. Boom. We're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk.
But you said, for those of you that don't know, Sean.
I don't know. Maybe they don't know. I mean,
how do they? Who doesn't know about why we're celebrating Monday off?
I can name a couple people in this 2024 election season. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk football. You're back. Washington Football Weekly. Obviously, the offseason for us has begun and moves have been made. We'll definitely dive into that. Also, our coaching hires, we're definitely looking into where we might go, what direction we might go. And we got to talk about the playoffs, because no longer is an NFC team represented in the playoffs. Both of them lost. But before we get into all of that, oh yeah, we're getting into that. I cannot wait. We need to send a special shout out to Janae for that. Before we get into that, we got to talk about the most recent news that's going on. You saw the video, and we went back and forth on how are we going to change that. But a new dawn, a new day. Washington, no hesitation in this offseason. They hired Bob Myers, a special consultant, former GM of the Golden State Warriors, and we get Adam Peters as our new GM from San Francisco. Will, let's go into it. Bob Myers obviously was GM. He was GM in basketball, but he is largely credited for putting together that dynasty, the Golden State Warriors, drafting Klay Thompson, drafting Steph Curry. Now, he's not going to be a GM. He's more just a special consultant, just to see, kind of lead us in the right direction, give his 2 cents. What do you think about this move and the impact it'll have on us?
I think it's very interesting. There was talk of Josh Harris as an outside thinker, and this is an example. If he brings someone from a completely different sport and says, help us, help teach us, or look for things that you think are going to be good for us to bring in new talent into the organization. So I think it's wonderful. And like you said, the guy's a winner. He built a dynasty in Golden State that everyone, no matter what sport you play in, are going to want to be like, so what did you see? Because Bob Myers brought in Steve Kerr, who had never been a head coach before, and said, okay, there's something about this guy that I want to have on leading my team. And he gelled that talent and they added to it, and stuff. So he's, it just shows the outside the box thinking that Josh Harris has. Plus, it's kind of funny, the fact that it's like, he's a owner of the Sixers. He brings in an NBA guy. But what got me even more was during the season, there were fans that kept saying, like, fire Ron, and what is Josh doing? He's just allowing us to lose. He's just allowing this product. Oh, no. He was working behind the scenes the whole time, because by 8:30 a.m., it's like news dropped. Here's who we got, because it was Bob Myers, and they brought in Spielman as well.
Right,
Rick Spielman. So he got an organizational talent consultant, and he got a football consultant. To lead these owners and say, okay, what here's the direction we should be looking at. So that was, I thought, was really cool.
Now, real quick, I just want to jump on this for a little second. Love it. Love the pedigree. Obviously, Golden State Warriors. We've seen how that dynasty is. But there's a theme. Josh Harris, owner of NBA team. Bob Myers, NBA. Is that going to be an issue, or will that translate to the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. But again, you're also looking at, he's bringing in talent, not to run the franchise. I think the big thing, you put special consultant on there. He's not asking him to be the team president. He's not asking him to be involved in football operations and tell me what personnel are we going to bring in. But he's looking at it from a help us with this franchise and setting our next step up. So for that, I mean, look, there's already Paul DePodesta. He's an analytics guy that's in Cleveland, and they went to a very much a number basis, and he came from the Dodgers. He had some success. I think he was with the Mets for a little bit. So it's not as if we're the pioneers of bringing in another sports talent to be a part of your organization. So, time will tell, but I think the way they're using him makes it safer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And even if there was some concern on that, the next move we made I think alleviates that concern. Washington hires Adam Peters as our new GM, most recently at San Francisco. And it's so funny. You look back to that San Francisco game and you see him after the game kind of powwowing with the team, and you wonder if he was saying, hey, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? What do you think about this?
So it's interesting. Bob Myers, Golden State Warriors. Adam Peters, San Francisco 49ers. Could they have known each other? Could there have been a link there? I trust you, that type of stuff. Who knows? Here's the deal. For the first time in our young lives, Sean, we got the top guy in football who said, I want to come to DC.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah.
We didn't have to overpay him. We didn't have to give him more power the way we've had to with Mike Shanahan and Ron Rivera and Joe Gibbs and Marty Schottenheimer. But the top talent in the league, has said, this is a place where I see myself winning at. I see talent. I see draft opportunities. I see free agency. Most importantly, I see an ownership group that's going to support me. I want to be there. That's a huge deal.
That's lovely. And that's not normal around here. This being a destination for people. But look, going just like the video says, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. And they have taken out the mess. And even as much as bringing in EB last year, I think people started to see the writing on the wall. Once Dan Snyder was taken out, once, he sold the team, and then you start to see, okay, new owners are coming in. And yeah, to your point, everybody said, Rivera, why are you keeping these guys? That actually, to me, was something that impressed me, because he could have easily said, you're a part of the old regime, get out of here. You know what I mean? I'm starting it new. We saw Jerry Jones did that to Tex Schramm, and when he took over, took it to Tex Schramm and Tom Landry. You know what I mean? Now, they had instant success, and hopefully we can also get that. But it just says something about us now that we're no longer the laughingstock. We're no longer what's your name again? What's your name? Our name is about to be winners, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. No, and they brought in a guy that has two things. He's had success and been a part of successful franchises in New England, in Denver, and then San Francisco. But he's also just came from San Francisco, where they had to do exactly what we just did. And he said that. He goes, I kind of learned when I joined the 49ers in 2017, and we had a team that needed to be rebuilt. We had draft picks. And he's like, and I learned some of the things we did really well. He goes, we made some mistakes. He said, we had some dark seasons. He's like, but then the things we did really well that turned the franchise around. So it's a guy who's done this before. It's not just someone who's been like, well, I've always had money, so I've gone out in free agency and purchased, all these players, or I've always had, all these draft picks. It's someone who has rebuilt a franchise and how to do it. So it's a lot to be excited about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And hey, it's the Bay Area. You know what I mean? That West Coast offense. Let's bring that into Washington a little bit. Let's see. I mean, that just says something. But look, yes, absolutely. This is a great signing, getting both of these guys. And it leaves us very optimistic on what's to come for all the things that we just mentioned. Shout out to you guys in the comments. Yes. We got some Cowboys owner is a joker. He's too old, retired. He needs to sell the team. And you know what, Will? I know we're watching the show, but you know what? I'm never going to pass up an opportunity to talk about the Cowboys, and they're losing. Dallas does it again. They lose in an opening round playoff game. And I mean, I want to say I took joy. Yes, I took great joy in watching that first half when they went up 21-0, 27-7. Will, I mean, were you giddy, man? What were you thinking when you were seeing the Cowboys get whooped?
I was shocked. I was shocked because while I didn't think that Dallas really had the Super Bowl team, the ability to win, I did not see them with what they had going on in the regular season just getting destroyed in their very first game at home, mind you, at home. And it was their defense that was getting shredded.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm kind of like, for Cowboys fans, like, what more do y'all need to be doing? What more does Jerry Jones need to be doing? I mean, they're stuck with Dak at quarterback, and you can't really do a whole lot there. But, like, what more do you need to be doing going into the playoffs to be ready and prepared? And they just laid in another egg. It just happened again. But I'll say this. This is what you get for all the hype that you get in the regular season. The media, the NFL, everyone hypes up Dallas.
Yep.
And so when you lose, everyone's going to destroy you. And this is what you get.
Oh, yeah. And I loved every minute of it. By the way, this is Lawrence. You're not seeing it. Hey, what up, Lawrence? How you doing, partner? I appreciate you joining. Yeah, this is it for them every year. And to break it down, schematically, they have had an issue. They have only had 5 losses. They lost to Buffalo. They lost to Miami. They lost to the Eagles, the Cardinals, and I can't remember the one other team they lost to. But in each of those 5 losses, the opposing team averaged at least 150 yards on the ground. Some getting upwards of 200 yards. The running game against that vaunted Dan Quinn Dallas defense could not stop the run. Aaron Jones, he had a field day, went over 100 yards, 2 early touchdowns that put them up 14-0, ended up getting another touchdown later in the game. I mean, there's 2 things that I think that is the big things in Dallas. You mentioned it. One is Dak Prescott. The other is this defense. And maybe we're fooled because we have been so poor the last couple of years, and we just seem to see them run up the score on us. So we think, oh, man, these guys must be that good. But I mean, is it the hype? Are we all fooled? Are they just setting up to failure every single year? I mean,
they're frauds. Is what it is. You just said it. The one loss that they had against someone, they were all playoff teams except for Arizona. So when they were up against not playing teams like Washington twice this season or the Giants twice in the season, they, was it the Giants at the end of the season that beat them? No, we played at the end of the season. They beat us. Yeah. Sorry. But they weren't playing a tough competition, that difficult a competition. And then now, not to say they should have gotten crushed against the Packers like they did, but they did get overhyped, But I also say this: they looked the part this season. I mean, when Janae said, like, I think they're going to at least make the championship game, I actually believed her. I'm like, I can see them doing that.
Yeah.
Well, nope.
Not anymore. Not anymore. So, yes, Dallas is on the couch with us. And it's not just them. Also, the Monday night game Philly gets stomped in Tampa 32-9. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you would have told me this at the beginning of the year, yeah, I would have had some surprise. I mean, and after week 11, I would have been like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But to be honest, in the last 7 weeks, they're 1-6. They didn't win a game in the month of December. Like this team, I mean, you want to talk about an epic collapse. This team completely fell from grace. And look, not to dog the Buccaneers. I mean, they got a great defense. Baker Mayfield is running. He's doing it the best he can right now, and I love every minute of it. But I mean, to lay an egg like this, if the Cowboys game was shocking, I'm just flabbergasted. I mean, the Eagles didn't show at all.
No, because they didn't show up.
Yeah.
You had guys not trying to make tackles. It's like guys just not trying. And I don't know if it's a situation where the players just knew, hey, we don't got the team this year. Since they know what it feels like or what it takes the year before, they may have just known, hey, this team ain't it. So they just weren't trying, like, let's just get out of here and end the season and look, do things differently. But that was quite the surprise to just see the collapse.
Yeah. But then on the other side, they got beat by the Giants the week before in a game that they needed to win to get that number 2 seed. So it's almost like maybe we should not have been so surprised at this.
Yeah. I think too often we were looking back to what we knew the Eagles could be or have been and not sitting right in front of us and say, well, what are they right now? What team are they right now? I also looked and see, like, you know what maybe the talent left the building when the offensive and defensive coaches left, and there was enough holdover to get them through some things. But I'm really surprised that they had that type of collapse like the way they did. But boy, did they look bad. And it was the effort. It wasn't just the on-field production. It was the effort. It's the stuff going on with AJ Brown. I mean, there's just a lot of turmoil right now in Philly.
Oh yeah, and I've been on record saying it. That's seemingly AJ Brown is turning into TO 2.0. You know what I mean? Where he's becoming that cancer in the locker room. But even still, even if you have an issue, TO we saw in the Super Bowl, he sat there on a bum ankle and got 14 catches. He still played the game. Yeah. For you not to show up, that to me is, I mean, it seems a little AJ Brownish. AB.
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brownish. I'm thinking AJ.
Yeah.
Antonio, it sounds a little Antonio Brownish. Like, whoa.
Right.
You're a bigger issue than you are positive in the house.
Right.
But look, so you look at both of those teams. Both of them get surprising losses in the first round. Obviously, last year, we know what the Eagles did. The Cowboys, they even won a playoff game last year against those same Buccaneers. I got to be honest, man. McCarthy's 12-5 in the last 3 years, and he's gotten ousted twice in the first round, and like I said, last year was in the second round. But overall, I think in the 12 playoff appearances, he's been, first round, he's been knocked out 5 times in the first round. He's only made 1 Super Bowl, and that was 13 years ago with Aaron Rodgers. And then, we know about the defense, Dan Quinn. We praised him all year. I mean, did they even have a fire sale in Dallas?
Well, I mean, they've already announced today that they're bringing back McCarthy, which I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, you brought this guy in here to get you to take care of Dak, make him better. He's done it in the regular season, but it's not happening in the postseason. And when McCarthy left Green Bay, nobody shed a tear in Green Bay. They were thankful for what he brought them. He got him to a Super Bowl, that type of stuff. But his act had grown tired, and they were ready for him to leave. And now he's not having the postseason success in Dallas. Man, with that roster they've got and their window of time, I'd be sitting there saying I would not be happy with this decision. I would be saying we need to go find something else to someone else to be leading us because. Yeah, so I mean, they can continue to have regular season success, but you're just kind of looking at. I mean, this is who he is. This is what he does with your franchise.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and with Dan Quinn as well. You talk about that defense and how everything is worked with that. 48. He gave up 48 to Jordan Love. So talk to me about that, because that surprised me.
It very much so, because, at first I kind of dismissed it a little bit. And it's sort of like, well, it's the NFL, it's the playoffs. I mean, it's an offensive league. Like, anybody anybody's defense can get beat by an offense the way these rules are set up. But to give up close to 50 points, to have the type of performance that you did, that's really, really concerning. And all this talk about Dan Quinn's defense and what he's done for Dallas, and you and me have said, well, Dan Quinn's the reason for all their success, and then they do that. I don't know. That's, you kind of mentioned there's a blueprint out there to run on Dallas, but I'm glad these aren't the decisions we have to be making.
Right. Now, let's flip it over to the Eagles. Sirianni. Should we be concerned about him? Is he on his way out?
So he hasn't had his meeting with the owner yet, but the general manager, Howie Roseman, and Sirianni did meet today to come up with the game plan for the assistant coaches. They clearly had an issue on defense at the fact that they had to fire Sean Desai during the season. They promoted Matt Patricia to take over as play callers. I mean, that the writing was on the wall in Philly that there was issues on the defense. But then Brian Johnson, who took over as offensive coordinator, man loves his screen passes. Things didn't go so well. They have good stats. Jalen still had some still good stats, but obviously the last part of the seasons and the playoffs, something ain't meshing very well. So that part makes sense. If you're going to keep Sirianni, he's got to bring in some new coordinators. Now, I'm not a Nick Sirianni fan. I think he's a punk. You see him on the sideline like that. So I would love to see him get fired. But at the same time, if he's not this leader, offensive, wizard that we thought he was, stay in Philly. If you can't handle your locker room, stay in Philly. I'm good with that. Yeah.
Go right ahead. And look, I kind of feel like we do owe him a little bit of gratitude. Let's not forget wasn't he there that first year in 2020? Wasn't it his first year there?
No, it was Peterson.
Or was he 2020? Oh, Pete. That's how he was the one who. Oh, yeah, he was
Peterson got fired.
Got hurt. Yeah, to bring in Sirianni. So honestly, it's just you see what happened last year. You see all the success they had, and you're kind of like, wow, look what he's built. Look what the owners. Look how they brought this team together. And then it just looked like through 11 weeks they're picking up where they left off, and all of a sudden. It was like, wait a minute, what just happened here? Everything just kind of fell. And I think you got to point the finger at the head coach. I mean, we know how they've brought back-to-back national championship defenses in from Georgia. We know that the trade for A.J. Brown, bring him in, which, they might regret it in hindsight, but still, he was the reason you got to the Super Bowl. He was one of the reasons that you were leading in the Super Bowl. So, honestly, I don't know. I've talked to people and they said, nah, he's not, as long as he can take you to a Super Bowl and, back-to-back playoffs, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, man, this kind of collapse, and like you said, I know you had all different coordinators and whatnot, but the talent's still there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, in some of these games, like the Jets game, it is.
Yeah, no, I would. The epic collapse like that, I would have to be wondering what is happening in that locker room. Heck yeah, they miss BDN.
They haven't been able to do anything since he left, man. Oh, there we go. But look, we never miss a chance to talk about the potential collapses of our division foes. Always good to see that now they are at the same place we are, on the bench, on the sidelines, watching the playoff games. But as a result, we talked about this and the coaches and all that type of stuff. Washington is also in the search for some coaches. And we have brought in a number of guys for interviews. And when you look at this list, I mean, these are some nice names, Will. These are some guys that it's kind of like, look at us. We feel like the pretty girl at the dance. Like, I can dance with you. I can dance with you. Let's go.
Yep.
So, look, let's go into it. These are the names. Ben Johnson, obviously the great offensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator from the same team. Anthony Weaver, D-line coach from Baltimore, right? And Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator for there. Raheem Morris, remember him, defensive coordinator for
the Rams.
The Rams, gotcha. The Rams. Dan Quinn, obviously, having his little break now because Dallas lost. And Bobby Slowick of the Chargers.
Texans.
Texans. Oh, he's still playing too. There we go.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore's in the Chargers.
Yeah.
Got Dallas on my mind. Anyways, let me look at this list. And I mean, first and foremost, we're going to talk about, each name individually. But like I said, like, you're the pretty girl at the dance right now. Like, these are names. These are guys, everybody in the league wants some of these guys. Johnson, Slowick, even before the Cowboys game, Dan Quinn for the defense, and McDonald for what he's been able to do with that defense in Baltimore, even with injuries. So this is a great situation. I mean, which way do I go? Like, how are you feeling in this process now?
Yeah, well, you know what's most surprising? There's only 2 offensive guys in there. All this talk about, we got the number 2 pick, we're going to draft a quarterback. If we not, we got a young quarterback in Sam Howell. And we have 2 offensive guys. The rest are all defense. That's what really surprised me. Like, wait a minute, who else? What other offensive guys are we going to be bringing in here? But like you said, these are just like with Adam Peters. I mean, these are some of the top names out there. The Ben Johnsons, the Mike McDonalds, the Dan Quinns. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see where they're going to go. Who gets the second round interviews, just like through the GM process. We found out who our 2 finalists were. So that'll be kind of fun to see.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, there are 2 names really quickly that are not on this list. One is kind of surprising. One I'm very thankful for. Bill Belichick is not on this list, thankfully. Look, no disrespect to him, but not in Washington. I just don't think it's going to be a good fit in Washington. And also Mike Vrabel, the old Tennessee Titans coach. Playoff experience, great defenses. Never was really able to get them a quality quarterback. But when you have Derrick Henry running the ball, do you really need a quality quarterback? But he's definitely got a good pedigree coming from the Patriots and under the Belichick tree. Are you surprised that they aren't on this list?
Yes and no. No to Bill Belichick. And this is headline season. This is where some of these reporters kind of get their names out there. And Mike Florio was the one saying, "Hey, they're gonna interview Bill Belichick." And all the local guys kept saying that is not their plan. It is not going to happen. So I'm glad to see this. Vrabel surprises me right now that he's not on that list just yet. Now the other thing, one of the reporters, it might be Josina Anderson, might have said, "Hey, listen." It was either Josina Anderson or Diana Rossini said, just because interviews are public doesn't mean those are the only interviews happening. Well, they don't necessarily have to disclose all of that information. So that doesn't mean they couldn't be going after someone like a Vrabel. But yeah, no, for right now, they have not requested. So I'm a little bit surprised by that. Also, we haven't gone after Jim Harbaugh. And remember that? That's why I say this is headline season. Jordan Schultz was the one saying, like, as soon as the season ended, the Commanders have already reached out to Jim Harbaugh's agency. Have they? Because that certainly didn't seem to come into fruition.
Right. What about this one? Rich Bisaccia is not on the list.
No. Yeah, he doesn't. Is he still with the Packers as their special teams coordinator? But yeah. People kind of blame the Raiders for not hiring him when he was their interim, and he doesn't seem to be getting the same type of interview rounds. He's the players like him. Players definitely like him. You know who's also not on that list? Eric Bieniemy. What does that tell you? And who's also not on anybody's head coaching interview list?
Who?
Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah. Honestly, I think they saw. I mean, let's be honest. If you don't have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and you know what I mean, that whole system, you're going to struggle. It's not whatever he was saying he was doing. If he drew up the plays, whatever, that's not that you need the player. I'll tell you something. Coach Tommy Meyer once said to me, because I said my senior year, I started coming in and I said, "Coach, I've been drawing up plays. I got some good ones. Man, watch this one. It's going to work. Watch this one. He said, you can have plays all day. These are nice, but you got to have the players that are going to run the plays and then know what they're supposed to be doing in that. So drawing them up is cute, but you need to have somebody that actually buys in to what's on what you got going. So look, let's start with the first name on this list, Ben Johnson. The household name, everybody is talking about him and what he has been able to do with the Detroit Lions and Jared Goff. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. They're hosting their second playoff game in 30 some odd years. You know what I mean? So, Will, this is a lot of people's favorite pick. I mean, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, he is absolutely the leader of the clubhouse right now. And some of the local guys, that's who they're picking. JP Finley's like, I'm 80% sure that it's going to be Ben Johnson. So it kind of seems this is the people are connecting these dots. Listen, I mean, many people believe he's largely responsible for the resurgence in Detroit. So he is the hot name. Carolina tried to give him everything last year, and he said no. There's a couple things that kind of stand out to me that kind of intrigue me, and this may help you out. So one thing about Ben Johnson is I'm like, okay, look what he's doing with the Jared Goff. Okay. If that's the case, what could he do with a quarterback who's not as athletic, who we may be drafting with the number 2 overall pick in Drake May? Look what he can do. Look at the offense of the Lions and say, this guy may know how to work with a Drake May with his talent. Plus, did he go to UNC?
Yes, he did.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't make that mistake. I did not.
I thought you said you wanted to say Sam Howell, but
no. But so there's some of that where it's like he's not coming from an offense that needs a Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels type quarterback. Right. He's got someone who can be a pocket passer and be very successful with it. So that's kind of intriguing. I mean, he is the hot name. He is the top target for almost anybody. So there's a lot of intrigue there, a lot of excitement there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely wanted to look and see how he would fit in DC. Let's move right down. Aaron Glenn, loved him when he was a corner for the Jets back in the day, and he's really been able to revitalize that defense. Although one thing that I have been paying attention to, especially since these names have appeared that we have interviewed them, is, now obviously the microscope. You're under the microscope. So I watched that game. Puka torched that secondary. You know what I mean? Now, mind you probably had to get the pieces, and you had a elite caliber talent in Matt Stafford. You know what I'm saying? So that definitely helps. But that was definitely something I was kind of paying attention to, because that defense has somewhat struggled as of late, but the whole body of work is great, and he's brought them back up. What do you think about Aaron Glenn, one of our DC or?
Yeah, he kind of surprised me. I was not expecting him to be a part of the interview list, but you've said it right. He has improved Detroit's defense. They jumped about halfway from being the bottom of the defense last year to about mid-range this year, statistically. A couple things that I like about him is he has a standout pass rusher, and he knows how to use him. And he's been able to give Aiden Hutchinson a chance to shine or find ways within his scheme, within his pass rushes to let his best players cook. So I think about that saying, okay, like when we used to have players that could make some plays and our defense coordinator didn't seem to do that. So that was intriguing. Also, his ability to use a chess piece like a Brian Branch and move him around and really showcase that type of talent, and just kind of think about, okay, well, can he take some of who we have in the secondary who either has or has not and figure out where they could be a little bit better. You're looking at a Quan Martin. You're looking at, can he figure out a defense so that Emmanuel Forbes cannot be a train wreck like he was this past year. So there's some stuff that intrigues me about Aaron Glenn.
And that's something I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, if you got a guy that played a certain position, that's what you want to see. And look, Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera, Eric Bieniemy. You know what I mean? There's a theme there where all these guys played a position and they did not focus on that position. I want to see the other thing. I want to see Aaron Glenn work with Quan Martin, work with Forbes, work with these St. Juiced. If Aaron Glenn comes in the house, I want him the first thing to say to St. Juice, if you make a deflection or you block a pass, you don't say anything. You run back to the huddle. You don't come here and do all this and, all that. No, right. He do that all the time. I'm like, for real? And then you get torched
when the ball gets overthrown.
Right. Like, so that's something I am looking for, and I'm eager to see what he can bring. I love that he's been given kind of the reins in Detroit on defense. And hey, this week is another week for us to see kind of if he'll be able to shut down that Tampa offense, which has been firing on all cylinders recently. The next two guys on this list, Anthony Weaver, the D-line coach, and Mac McDonald, both part of the number 1 seed Baltimore Ravens. Hey, I heard great things about McDonald, but before that, I talked about Weaver. We have had issues with defensive line. Obviously, we traded away those pieces. We have not been able to replicate any of that kind of talent. Montez Sweat for the Chicago Bears leads them and us in sacks, which says everything you need to know about our production. So we know about the front four. We know about Baltimore and how they're able to get pressure. Weaver, this is an interesting one for me. What do you think about this one, man? Can he help our defense?
This one surprised me, and there's got to be some leadership qualities there that are known for him, because you're a position coach, and we also want to interview your boss. Yeah. McDonald, your coordinator. Right. So that part kind of threw me off there. But what's been impressive in Baltimore's day, they replace guys. They do what Baltimore does. They have guys who come in and out. And I mean, he got my guy Jadeveon to have another, a big season. So he clearly, he had close to double digits. Got himself the bonus. He clearly knows how to scheme up, some pass rush, and they've drafted guys. They brought in free agents. They do what Baltimore does to have the defense that they did. So I'd be in some of this, it could be learning about what does he see? What does he like to do? Just kind of, are they actual, are a finalist, or are we picking brains? Right. What if it's a situation where he comes in goes from defensive line coach to defensive coordinator? Maybe if it's a Mike McDonald, that becomes his defensive coordinator, or one of these other guys. And we're like, well, this is someone we spoke with. Here's Anthony Weaver. Here's some of the things he said. An offensive coach may come in and say, yeah, let's let him run my defense. Right. So it could be more fact finding.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, also, I don't know if this could be, but could this be a package deal? Could we be getting both of them so that, hey, we're going to talk to Weaver, see if we can – what he says about McDonald. If we're sold on McDonald, then let's see if we can bring them both in. Don't separate it. I mean, at this point, anything is possible. But let's go to McDonald, because one of the things that I love about him, you talk about he brought in people. Last year it was Calais Campbell. They got for the 1-year deal. This year, Jadeveon Clowney. But also, they've been able to still have success amid injuries. We know about those corners being torn. Marlon Humphrey, I don't know if he's back yet. No. And they've been dealing with that all year and still have been able to win in a very tough division, tough AFC North, where two teams made the playoffs. Three. Ravens, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland all made the playoffs in that one. And everybody had a winning record in that division. So that says something for McDonald to have done that. But the other part about these two that I really like is that pedigree. We know about the pedigree. We know about, that kind of integrity, that kind of work ethic coming out of Baltimore under Harbaugh. And this makes me feel good, because if we can bring guys from there and kind of have them relate that to our guys and train and emulate what Baltimore has done in Washington, I love that. So what do you think about Mike McDonald, man?
Yeah, it's like what Ron kept preaching about culture, but one that actually has success.
Yes.
That they'd be bringing. Yeah. No, so he's really intriguing to me. I didn't really know a whole lot about him going into the season, if I'm being completely honest. But I wanted to look back at what the Ravens did, and, what's most impressive is against some of these offenses, they shut them down. In week 1, they played against the Texans. Now, it was the Texans' first, game, but Texans, made the playoffs. They held them to 9 points. A little bit later on, they went and played Detroit. They held Detroit to 6 points. So our leading coach only scored 6 points against his defense. Then you go later on into the season against the 49ers, held them to 19 points in their victory. Then they smoked the Dolphins. And maybe they brought out the blueprint of this is how you play Miami. This is what you do to Miami when they beat them 56-19. So against some of the most high-profile offenses in the league, Mike Macdonald's squad shut them down. That
impressive.
That's pretty impressive. That's a great word. That's what I was trying to find what word to describe it. So he interests me a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's something that we got to fix. And I don't think it's going to be done. I mean, if we get a great defensive player, that's fine. But honestly, we just need to change the whole scheme. We got to sit here and I want a top tier defense. I'm sick and tired of having to say every year, oh, here comes Ed bend but don't break defense. We'll let them drive 75 yards and hopefully they'll get a field goal. I don't want that. We talked about getting Forbes last year so we could get turnovers. That didn't come to fruition. Now we need a new head coach. And to your point on all those things that he's been able to do, we'll see what he can do this weekend against a hot Texans team, which is very different from that team that they played in the season opener. But I'm intrigued by this, but everything about this. So I'm again, the microscope is on him, so I'll be watching this weekend. But I like this.
Right.
I like this pick. I like this look. All right, now back down to a guy that we were a little familiar with, Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator for the Rams. Will, I've always been a fan, and I mean, I'm kind of excited. I mean, if we're going to have a big board, he would probably be under McDonald for me, but at the same time, that familiarity, the fact that we know what this guy does with defenses. I mean, look at the Rams. Can you name anybody else on that defense outside of Aaron Donald?
Ernest Jones, linebacker, South Carolina.
Oh, God. Should have known. That one guy. But they held Ben Gordon and that Detroit offense to 24 points. You know what I mean? And if they could have scored more than a field goal in the red zone, at least one of 3 trips, the daggone Rams might have won that game. So it says something about Morris, with all the talent he's lost in this fact, Ramsey's not there. I think they had Wagner last year. He's not there. You know what I mean? So what do you think about this, man? I mean, his resume speaks for itself.
Yeah, so I haven't always been the biggest Raheem Morris fan. He was in DC as our DBs coach for a couple seasons, and our DBs were never very good. And so I was always like, well, how is this guy getting so much praise? But the thing about it, he's stuck around some of the best coaches in the league. He went from team to team with Kyle Shanahan. He's with Sean McVay. And so it makes me say, okay, they're obviously some of the brightest minds in the game right now respect him. So there's clearly something, and I don't know if it has to do with his relationship with players. I mean, he's a young guy. He's only 47 years old, so I don't know if he can relate to players really well. So he's a great leader. But it's one of those things where, like, from what I've seen, my concerns that I've seen on the field, obviously – other people in the league really like him. And so that's why I kind of have to take a step back. Because normally if I would look at the list, I'm like, But you bring up a great point. Name somebody besides Aaron Donald on that defense. And look what the Rams weren't expected to go in the playoffs this year. So.
And that's again, like, it was a small sample size, at least from last week, and kind of judging it on that. And if we went by that narrative, then shoot, we I don't know why Dan Quinn is even on this list. You know what I mean? If we're judging it by the last game that we saw. And again, we mentioned this earlier. This goes back to kind of, I mean, what we've been talking about. We know his history. We know when he coached the Falcons, got them to the Super Bowl with an elite offense under Kyle Shanahan, but they also had a 28-3 lead that they gave up and lost in overtime in the Super Bowl. We know how solid their defense has been these last couple of years with Micah Parsons and Diggs, and these guys have been balling out. But when it comes to those clutch moments, we're at that same spot. And I cannot justify that team giving up 48 points. Now, Micah Parsons had hurt ribs. I get that. But you still had Bland. you still had those other defensive players that were talking a whole bunch of mess in Washington. So is that the players just not showing up, or is that ultimately go back to Dan Quinn?
Right. I know. It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. With him, I think about, well, what do I want? I know what my floor can be with him. You're going to have a good defense. What do I want my ceiling to be? And I mean, we've had so many down years in DC. I'm kind of like, hey, I'd switch places with Dallas in a second. You give me a great defense. You develop, extreme talent, top talent in a Micah Parsons and a Diggs, who was a 2nd-round pick, and Deron Bland was a 5th-round pick. Man, I'll take that all day if that means I'm going to have playoff disappointment based on the history we've had for so many years. But then I also look at, but am I looking for something more than that? I mean, that's a tough one, because with Dan Quinn, he's going to come in and instantly improve your team on defense, whether through who you have or who he's able to bring in some pieces. And I do know there are some players that love playing for him. Dante Fowler's one of them, where like wherever he goes, Fowler's going to go join him. He loves the guy Jordan Lewis and Curse, the safety. They'll probably follow him wherever he goes. And so you can improve your defense a little bit. So you can get better. But like you said, he had a huge lead in the Super Bowl and lost it. Again, it's like, what do you want from a coach? Are you trying to get someone who you really think he can get me a championship, or do you want someone who can make me better?
Yeah.
I don't know if Dan Quinn's your championship, projecting coach as a head coach. I don't know.
And that's where, when it comes to somebody like Dan Quinn, that's where I want people to kind of pump their brakes and reevaluate some of this stuff, because you do have to look at that. I don't want to be the next Dallas Cowboys, 12-5 in the regular season, beating all the crappy teams, and then not being able to do anything in the playoffs. And then he has a history that follows him of, when it comes to those games, when it comes to the big-time games, something seems to happen with his defenses that they can't play a complete game. You know what I mean? And on top of that, he had pieces. You mentioned it. But even in Atlanta, the place that he had pieces that were great. He had solid defenses, and it's just something just don't click when it gets to the playoffs. So, not taking anything away from him and everything he's been able to build, because in the regular season, that Cowboys defense is a formidable force. I mean, there's no two ways about it. But again, I want what the Patriots had. I want dynasty. I don't want, we're here, 2 or 3 years. Hey, we're a nice up and coming team, but I don't want to be the Ravens, honestly. Right. We could be the number 1 seed just to make the divisional round of the playoffs.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want, Super Bowls. That's what we all should be looking for. So, I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, obviously we interviewed this guy, and anytime I could take something from Dallas,
sure,
I'll take that opportunity.
Sure.
But realistically, I don't know. He's not the number 1 on my list, especially with the list of DC.
He may be like the modern day Norv Turner. Like, you are best as a coordinator than you are at leading an entire franchise.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And one more guy, Bobby Slowick from the Houston Texans, that we've seen all the great things that they've been able to do this year. They are playing the number 1 seed, went from worst to first and win the AFC South. I've heard the name. I'm loving what he is doing. I mean, CJ Stroud is just having himself a year with that offense, that run game. It's legitimate. I mean, and you would think, okay, well, they have this great receiver in Tank Dell, and then he's out for the season, and then Nico Collins comes out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And then he's jumping. You got Schultz, the ex-Cowboy, dominated at tight end for them. You know what I mean? And Singletary, the old Buffalo guy, running back. They have nice pieces over there, and he's using them so well. And you saw in that game last week against Cleveland, I mean, it was back and forth. I mean, shout out to Flacco, who was able to, kind of keep pace. But I think it was like 24-14 at the half. And the Texans were just, I mean, I think 1 or 2 of them were drives, but I think a couple of them were just deep balls. Yeah. And he hit Nico for I think a 30-40 yarder or something like that. He hit Schultz for one, but he also hit somebody else that broke a tackle and got it. Stroud in that offense, they look great. My question, though, because I love this guy, but my question is, how much is that CJ Stroud and the fact that they did have Tank Dell for most of the year, who's a legit receiver? They have a nice line. They have a better line than we do, and they have pieces. How much of that is that, and how much of that is Bobby Slowick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what was most impressive to me about it is two things. It's you broke the Ohio State curse big time. You know, Stroud, and think about either, what's happening in Carolina right now. What are they thinking about? What the decision they made? So that's impressive. And all those names you just mentioned, they weren't top draft picks. They're not number 2 overall picks, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, coming in here. These names that he turned into being really good players. So he's extremely impressive on the offensive side. And his pedigree on who he's learned from is Mike Shanahan when he was in DC. He's been under Kyle for years and learning what Kyle Shanahan does. So he's learned from some of the top names. The question on Slowick is this 1 year too early? Can he lead a franchise, or is he good at calling plays? And that's what separates these guys. These guys get promoted and get their chances. And now it's a whole different thing. They're not just doing X's and O's right now. Now they're managing people. And that's the big thing on him. But at the same time, they thought Sean McVay got hired a little bit premature too. And he did a great job in LA and turning them around. So I'm not saying Slowick is the next McVay, but it's like, there's also examples of people who, they kind of think this is a little bit early for Slowick to get hired. It could be next year, but it's good that we're interviewing him and finding out.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and I mean, we talk about, he could potentially be the next McVay. Could he also end up being the next Eric Bieniemy, where it's like you were great over there, but you came over here and it just you couldn't replicate it.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Yeah. You really don't know. And, he's got a couple of interviews. I think the Seahawks are looking at him. So it'll be really interesting to just kind of see. And that's one of those things where Chris Cooley once said about Sean McVay, if he ever gets an interview, he's going to get the job. So when he got the interview opportunity with the Rams, and then he got hired, Cooley had said, hey, I'm not surprised, because he was going to come with his binder. He was going to come with his details, with his notes on how he builds a franchise. So there's an opportunity for Slowick to show that, I've only been doing this 1 year, but look what I've learned from. This is, what I would do. And that's just kind of what we'll have to find out about him. What I'm really excited about with this list of folks is they're coming from some really winning franchises, and that's what I think is exciting. You talked about the 2 from the Ravens, the 2 from the Lions as a new franchise that's up and coming. You've got some Dan Quinn's an established. He's been a head coach. He's had a ton of success in Dallas as a defense coordinator. Morris and Slowick are coming from winning franchises. They've learned from people. That's what has me kind of really excited about this list.
Oh yeah, every person on this team that we've interviewed is in the playoffs, with the exception of Dan Quinn. Well, but they still made the playoffs, right? Yeah. So I mean, again, this is a pool of upper echelon talent as opposed to who needs a job and is in a hurry to get over here like years past.
That's the biggest part. Like for years, man, it's like when we got rid of Mike Shanahan, they were Jay Gruden and Mike Zimmer were like some of the ones that they were interviewing. And Mike Zimmer, I don't know if he wanted the job. He wanted to be a head coach, so he interviewed, but he ultimately, I don't know if he would have taken it if we had offered to him. But Jay Gruden, it was like, we hired him, and it's like, well, you're hiring him to teach Robert and to coach Robert up. Mm-hmm. But it was also because, well, who else are you going to get? After Joe Gibbs left and they decided that Greg Williams was not going to be a head coaching candidate for them, which was a mistake, in my opinion. Again, same thing. They wanted somebody to develop Jason Campbell. We were set to hire Jim Fossil. And then the fans heard about it and said, absolutely not. And so they listened to the fans, and we got Jim Zorn. But it was another time where it was a struggle for us to get a top coach. Now look at our list here. Look at who's willing to sit down and talk about us as an opportunity. Ben Johnson said it today. He got asked. He goes, I don't really know Adam Peters, but I've heard fantastic things about him. And he emphasized the word fantastic. And people were like,
yes. Okay.
Like we just said, Washington's become a destination again. And that has never been the case for head coaches.
No, it has not. Oh man, but I'm glad. I am so glad. So look, let's talk about it. We need a new head coach right now. As of right now, we still have our offensive coordinator, but we also need a new defensive coordinator, potentially D-line, all this. Let's start with coach. Is there anybody on here that you're kind of pegging as one of your guys that you want for a new coach?
Right. Yeah. There's two right now that I think if we got either one of them, I'd be like, okay, I'm good. One of them is Ben Johnson. He's the hot name for everybody. And plus the fact that he's got that offensive side of him and the fact that he can take a stiff quarterback who can't run just in case we get Drake May, then it's like, okay, well, he's done it with Jared Goff and made him look good. But the guy I'm most intrigued about how he does as an interview is Mike Macdonald.
Yeah.
I think he's the one, and that goes, my fear right now is the fact that we're going to have, there's a real good chance we're going to have a rookie quarterback. And I want a good offensive mind with him. And the idea of an offensive head coach would bring the same system for him. So if an OC gets hired, if you take a Ben Johnson, now Jared Goff is going to have to learn a new offense in Detroit if he leaves. But if you have that guy in place, and you've got Sean McVay, and then his offensive coordinator is Kevin O'Connell, and he goes to Minnesota. He can bring someone in place. Shane Waldron can learn from him. Other guys can learn from him. Zach Robinson, I think, is the OC in the Rams, and he's going to be a head coach soon. But it's Sean's system. That's important to me. Yeah. Same thing with Kyle Shanahan and stuff like that. But there's just something about that Ravens defense, about the Ravens culture. It's like you said, can we get that down I-95 to come into us? And so I kind of feel like, Johnson, McDonald, you pick either one of those two, I'm gonna be pretty excited. But something intrigues me about Mike Macdonald.
Oh yeah. And obviously Johnson, I mean, we see his talent, and I love, to your point, what he has been able to do with Jared Goff, who, he's been to a Super Bowl, but Jared Goff will always be a little bit above average to me. He's never going to be that elite guy, at least to me.
Right.
And to see what he's been able to do with him. And then on top of that, you lose one of your best running backs last year in Jamal Williams. And you had to get Montgomery. And then you had Gibbs, two new guys, and they were able to thrive in that system. So obviously, Ben Johnson is somebody I'm looking at. For me, though, for OC, and maybe we be getting them a little too early, and I agree with that sentiment, but Bobby Slowick. And the reason being is because one way or another, we're either going to have a rookie quarterback, like you were saying, or we're going to have a guy that's played 1 year, so it's really a second-year quarterback. But Slowick has worked with C.J. Stroud, who is a rookie quarterback. I feel like they're kind of learning and meshing together, and that's something I kind of really want. But then on the flip side, where my heart is. It's always Sam Howell. I want to keep him, yada, yada. So then I do look at Mike Macdonald, because then I'm thinking EB stays in place. Mike says, I'll take the defense. EB, you cover the offense. And we get to keep Sam. Let's go.
Sean.
Let's go.
Did you not see the things I've sent you about how EB's offense was just like Scott Turner's?
And you liked Scott. So
did you like the play calling this year?
Listen, I didn't. I didn't like it at all.
So are you saying so you saying that Mike Macdonald would be your top choice?
Yes, I honestly, because I think us having a defensive coach and somebody that's going to focus on that defense and really kind of try to solidify that defense. And, I'd rather be a team that could, if we're only going to score 18, 19 points like we've been averaging over the last couple of years, then we need to have a defense that can win with just that many points. We need to get the caliber of a defense that is Pittsburgh Steelers, where you're getting outgained every game, but you still somehow make the playoffs. Now, Tomlin helps out with that, obviously, but at the same time, that defense, TJ Watt has a big part of that as well, but that defense still is a huge thing. And same with Baltimore, the fact that they have dealt with the injuries and he has still, it's just next man up. And we always talk about that, but it's not as easy as just bringing the next guy up there. So that's Mike Macdonald is my start. But in reality, as far as OC or as far as head coach, if we went Johnson or Slowick, it's 6 1, half dozen the other. Like I'm not, I wouldn't say one or over the other, but Slowick just, and I just realized this, I called him Bobbly Slowick.
Oh, you did. I didn't notice that.
I didn't either. I didn't, just till now. But Slowick, like I said, with the things about him working with the rookie quarterback and the younger team, we obviously know we're going to be bringing in a lot of younger guys in here, most likely from drafting quarterbacks potentially or O-linemen. So I like that he's able to mess with those guys. So that's my direction on that one.
You know what I think is interesting? I heard this on a show today, and they were talking about the way the league is going right now. It's like you get the young offensive mind and the old defensive coordinator. We want like a 40-year-old head coach who knows offense and a 65-year-old defensive coordinator. Like in Miami, they got Vic Fangio, old dude. In Green Bay, they got Joe Barry. At one point, Sean McVay had Wade Phillips, and it was like, but part of it, what they're trying to say is if you're going to have a young head coach, you want someone experienced with him who can kind of help guide him, who's been there before, been the head coach, been in the league a long time, can kind of, help him a little bit. But yeah, I think it's interesting that we're both on the same page where we kind of really are looking at Macdonald.
Yeah. Yeah, I love to see what he's been able to do, and the fact that look, we've dealt with injuries, and I think that's huge. And I mean, we always look at Baltimore. Right up I-95.
We're always envious.
Oh yeah. So if we are able to emulate what they've been doing, especially on defense at Baltimore, and bring that to Washington, that'll be huge, man. That's going to be something that I think will be able to elevate our team. Considering if we stick with the Golden Boy, Sam Howell.
I think I got more concerned of your offensive coordinator than I do head coaches, to be honest. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who do you think they're going to select as head coach? Not who do you want. Who do you think they're going to select?
Ben Johnson.
Honestly,
I think they're going to get him. They've been in talks with him. And then you mentioned the point of, we might potentially be getting the second pick, which is potentially Drake May, North Carolina guy, Sam Howell, North Carolina, De'Ami Brown, North Carolina. We were once the Commanders. Now we're going to be the Tar Enders.
I gotta have to leave. I can't do this. Let's go.
Yeah, buddy.
I think Ben Johnson. You're hearing it from too many local, credible people in the media that it just kind of seems that's trying to say Harbaugh. I mean, Harbaugh would win, but then he's gonna burn every bridge, leading outside of town as he goes and does it. So we get some wins, but he will win. But yeah, no, I just think there's too when there's certain guys that keep saying, "Hey, I'm hearing this" or "I'm thinking this," I tend to agree to lean on their expertise and what they're hearing. So I think it will be Ben Johnson too, and I think that'd be wonderful.
Yes, thank you. A little bit too much Maryland fans for Sean.
We already saw what happens when we give Tar Heels a chance to play in the league.
Hey! Our time is now. Okay, our time is now. You hear what I'm saying to you? Let's go. Oh man. Yeah. So, hey guys, let us know what direction you think the team should go. And if there's anybody that's not on this list right here that we don't have, what's up?
I'm going to chime in on the hey, E. What did I tell you about all these Tomlin rumors? You know who's not on here? Or let's trade Mike Tomlin to Washington because they need a head coach. I kept saying it's not going to happen.
Another guy that I would love, but again, that's not going to happen.
Nope.
Oh, man. Here we go. Appreciate you tuning in. EA, appreciate all you guys tuning in, man. This to some people, this might not be as exciting. It's the nuts and bolts, the vegetables, but we absolutely are just salivating at the opportunity to potentially get one of these big names that everybody's clamoring over. And Will, I keep going back to that line, man. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. No longer the laughing stock. Let's go. It's time to take command, man. And especially after what I saw over this weekend. And, that might not be indicative of what's going to happen next year. But if those two teams, Dallas and Philly, start to dwindle a little bit.
Right.
2024
Quick
division champs.
rebuild. Quick rebuild.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Love it. Love every minute of it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and let you guys go. We want to appreciate all of you tuning in, watching, checking us out. Oh yeah, we play.
You're gonna have to. They play.
Oh, that is absolutely gonna happen. Book it, E. You're coming on. Let's do that, man. Oh man. So again, we appreciate you guys watching us and sticking with us, staying tuned. Tune into those playoff games for sure. You won't see us there, but it's okay. We're already dominating this off season.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's go. So for your boy, Sean Spencer, that's my guy, South Carolina's finest, Will Kramer. We'll see y'all next time, man. Hey, be cool, stay in school, and as we always do, we got to end the only way we know how. If I can find the dang on video. Here we go.
Gibbs, you got a good chance. Let me tell you something about some good fans. Back in the day, RFK was our palace. If you don't know, you need